92% of LGFA players think that ladies football needs to review its rules and would be in favour of trialling any new rules in the National League in 2026. That's according to the Gaelic Players Association's annual membership survey, which was released earlier this week. Such measures would go a long way to the modernisation of the game, bringing it in line with the abilities of today's athletes rather than when the LGFA's rulebook was first established. This is particularly interesting when you observe how sport has historically been a mirror to how women are treated in society, as outlined by author, historian and curator at the National Museum of Ireland, Siobhán Doyle.
Throughout Irish history, women have been expected to conform to the norms of society. So they're expected to dress a certain way, act a certain way, and they've been quite limited to the spaces that they can socialise in. And this includes the area of sport. So women haven't always been welcome in social circles. With many sports, it takes a certain cohort of women to ruffle feathers, to break down barriers in order for them to be represented in that sport.
There is precedent for changes in women's Gaelic games. Squirtgate and the #UnitedForEquality campaign could be looked at as recent examples of that, but other flashpoints date back to the 20th century. From the phasing out of high-neck blouses and long skirts to increasing the number of camogie players on the pitch from 12 to 15, there has been changes made when the will has been there. The point isn't necessarily to compare to the men's game, it's to open up a conversation about the continued development of the women's game.
And I know people tend to say this, that, you know, the lads have changed, so why are we aping after the changes and that? But that's not necessarily it. I'd see it as a situation whereby every game should be analysed after a period of time and, you know, things that work.
That's the voice of Mick Bohan, 5-time All-Ireland winning manager with the Dublin Ladies team, who believes the changes Jim Gavin and the GAA's Football Review Committee made to the men's game last year have rejuvenated a game that was in trouble. The results of this week's GPA survey certainly mirror that notion and reinforce a desire for similar changes to be implemented into the women's game. 88% of female inter-county players reported that they would be in favour of the solo and goal free kick coming into the LGFA. 73% would like to see the 2-point scoring arc implemented, and 61% would like to keep 3 players in the attacking half.
Certainly on the inter-county scene, I would have heard an awful lot of frustration with the tackle and what the tackle is. And if you even go onto the LGFA website, there's videos there on how to tackle, and the near hand tackle is the one that stands out. It is so difficult to reenact that tackle in the course of the game, and realistically most of the time players coming at you rather than you running alongside somebody. And equally, if somebody's bearing down on goal, you can forget about near hand tackles. It's backs to the wall and everything you can possibly do to try and stop someone from scoring a goal. So there's so many different things.
The irritation around the ambiguity Bohan outlines is echoed in the experience of the players too. 97% of inter-county women's players this week say that there should be some incidental contact allowed in the tackle, with 88% outlining that the tackle should move away from its current non-contact status. Bohan points out that the addition of the physical element will be a help rather than a hindrance to the women's game.
There's a tendency when you mention physicality that people kind of see that as a dirtiness or a raggedness coming into the game. But I'd look, say, at women's soccer and where that has gone. And that whole combat, if the ball is 10 metres in front of you and you see a player able to use their body to shield, to win the space before they get the ball, and that is perfectly allowed in soccer. For years, certainly on the male side of things, we would have seen our soccer brethren as inferior male species, that they go to ground particularly easy and they're not as robust or physical as we are. And yet I look at the girls' game and I think, I mean, you know, women's football would be deemed to be a physical game, but we're not in the ballpark when it comes to physicality and soccer. And that hasn't led to a deterioration of the standards in women's soccer. It's actually improved it.
While he raised these thoughts while in charge of Dublin, now that he's stepped away, he hopes these views can be taken without bias. Bohan believes any review subcommittee could be a really positive step towards the future of the game, as long as the relevant stakeholders continue to be involved in the process.
This is a discussion piece around the rules to try and make the games better. And we obviously have a good product and we have a huge amount of people playing it, but we have now got to a scenario where a lot of teams, players, are prepared really, really well. That, you know, good coaching, good conditioning, you know, good nutrition, good psychologists, all this. So our females have become very capable athletes. So let's speak to them. Let's ask them what's their vision of the game, because when you're immersed in it, whether it's through playing or coaching, you have a feel for it. And that's a time where, what's the things that are breaking down? When you come off after playing a game, what are you really frustrated about during the course of that game? You know, it could even be the way that the rules are communicated.
And how would you see that unfolding going forward?
Look, the bottom line is this, you know, the key players involved in this are obviously the LGFA themselves, because you need somebody independent to monitor it. Now, whether they appoint someone like they did in the GA under like Jim, who set up his own subcommittee, but you know, like that, they ran trial games, they took feedback from players, they watched video analysis, they listened to the public, they certainly went to coaches within the game that they trusted themselves. So that's, people are so amenable to doing that. Like, in my experience in my time, you know, lots of people would say to you, you wouldn't get somebody to do that, and it doesn't make a difference what that is. Well, my experience is when you ask people the right way and you go to the right people, you get people who are willing to do it. So I would see this scenario as exactly the same. And again, the end product, if we make this a better game to play, a better game to watch, well then isn't there huge success and merit in having done that.
Is it a job you'd like to do?
I certainly wouldn't say no to helping out in a scenario like that, for sure. And you know, again, I'd like to think that after the years involved in coaching, and even now with young girls playing the game, I'd be in it for the right reason.
Integration of the Gaelic Games organisations is coming down the tracks, and across the board the voice of the player is finally being heard. If this week's developments are anything to go by, those voices are only going to get louder. This video is part of the Same But Different series, looking at what sets women's sport apart. For more, you can follow the series on the Irish Independent.